I'm going to call to order the select board meeting of August 25th, 2026 at 5 p.m. Could we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We could get you a little stool. We could get you a little stool if it felt better.
No, she's so tall. Where's Bob? My husband is 6'2". Can you hear me?
I can hear it going.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
that's where they go. Yeah. That's really nice of
All right, first up we have is the approval of minutes. We have the approval of the annual town meeting for June 9th and 10th. I believe that is for grammatical changes.
No, we just hadn't approved them yet.
We hadn't,
I had
okay.
a computer problem.
Okay.
Move to approve the meeting minutes for the annual town meeting, June 9th and 10th, 2026. Are we going to do them all?
You can do all three at once.
And the August 5th meeting, Select Board meeting, 2026, and the August 11th Select Board meeting, 2026.
I second that.
All in favor? 4-0. And just for the record, Mr. McCatton's not here yet. All right, item 4, new business, abatements and supplementals. And I believe we have to do those ones separately.
Yeah.
So I will take a motion on those when,
Okay, I move to approve the recommended tax abatement totaling $12,484.79. Should I read them both?
Second.
no, we have to do them separately.
Okay.
Any questions on those?
No.
No?
No.
I thought, Carmen, you raised your hand.
No.
No.
I did.
Okay, no,
I
sorry.
did.
All right, all those in favor? 4-0.
You know how I love short meetings.
Next motion is move to approve the recommended tax supplements totaling $4,796.12.
Second.
All in favor? 4-0. 4B, road name request, Genwood Drive at map lot 17-18-D-11.
I can see how many ways this is going to get misspelled.
Yes.
Move to approve the road name, Genwood Drive.
I second.
All those in favor? 4-0. All right, item 5, orders by the board for articles on the referendum ballot for November 3rd, 2026. First up is to certify and place a secret ballot referendum question, shall the inhabitants of the town of Bridgton vote to adopt a moratorium on data centers?
I move to certify and place referendum ballot question, shall the inhabitants of the town of Bridgton vote to adopt a moratorium on data centers before the voters for consideration on November 3rd, 2026.
I second.
And this is where we're going to have some discussion, because there are a couple issues with this, and I'm going to turn it over to Ashley.
I hope in your packets you had time to review the memo I put together.
Yes.
Given that there just isn't sufficient information to put this to the voters, and that at the time it was voted on with the previous board, it was only voted 3-2, with no direction on getting the materials for the ballot, I don't feel that it's
Ready.
prepared to go to the ballot in November. I don't have anything for backup to be able to provide.
And the other thing you wrote was data centers are not currently permitted under the town's land use code.
I believe that was what I had noted. Deb, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
That's my interpretation as the planning board chair.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So it doesn't feel like it's an urgent issue since it's not currently permitted, and we would have some time to explore this further.
That's correct.
Have we had any inquiries about doing that in our town?
Having a data center?
Not
None
at this
that I'm
time.
aware of. I thought I saw, is Brenda here?
Yeah.
Brenda, have you had any? No, okay. Any other questions? Okay. All right, so all those in favor of the moratorium on data centers?
You mean having it
More-
on the ballot?
To put it on the ballot.
Yeah.
This would-
Right.
All those opposed? 4-0.
04.
All right, 5B, to certify and place a secret ballot referendum question, shall the voters of the town of Bridgton, Maine adopt the First Amendment to the Bridgton Municipal Development and Tax Increment Financing, i.e. the TIF, development program, also known as the Bridgton Route 302 Tax Incremental Financing District. Such adoption to be pursuant to the findings, terms, and provisions set forth in the attached proposed First Amendment and order.
I move to certify and place referendum ballot question, shall the voters of the town of Bridgton, Maine adopt the First Amendment to the Bridgton Municipal Development and Tax Increment Financing, TIF, development program, also known as the Bridgton Route 302 Incremental Financing District, such adoption to be pursuant to the findings, terms, and provisions set forth in the attached proposed First Amendment and order before the voters for consideration on November 3rd, 2026.
I second that, and I thank you for reading the long one.
Any questions? All those in, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think we're all pretty familiar with this, having met with
With Ron, the
with
auditor.
Ron Smith, yes. Mhm.
Okay. All right, all those in favor? 4-0.
He's not gonna make it.
No.
He's got a health problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's fine, thank you.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. All right, item C, to certify and place the secret ballot referendum question, shall an ordinance entitled Amendments to the Bridgton Land Use Code to regulate short-term rentals be enacted?
I move to certify and place on the referendum ballot question, shall an ordinance entitled Amendments to Bridgton Land Use Code to regulate short-term rentals be enacted before the voters for consideration on November 3rd, 2026.
Point of information, can the public speak?
We have a motion first, we have to get through, and then I'll answer that. Just give me a minute, Ken.
I second that.
Any discussion from the board? Okay. Normally, Ken, the answer to that question is no, because it's not a public hearing. However, I know there's a lot of people that are here for this. I've talked with Carmen briefly right before we started the meeting. As long as the rest of the board's okay with it, I will allow people to come up and make a comment. I will do, just like we do in public hearings, limit it to 3 minutes. And just tell us how you feel, and then, we'll take that into consideration. And then we'll obviously go and make our vote afterwards. Yeah, just come right up to the mic, identify yourself and where you live.
Hi, I'm Donna Joss from Millbrook Road in Bridgton, and I want to thank all you for all the work that you've been doing on this, and also the planning board members and all the work they did on that. It's a lot of work. I don't understand the difference between these two items, C and D, but I'm not asking that question. I just wanted to add that I did read through the short-term rental registration ordinance that the planning board, I believe, put out. And, yeah?
Staff wrote it.
Pardon?
Staff wrote the ordinance.
Okay. It was pretty clear and well-written, but one thing that I didn't see anything about was anything about grandfathering current renters, and I wondered if that could be considered, because I think it's really important. A lot of people have been renting their camps and cottages for generations, and I feel like that should be taken into consideration. The other question I had is the fees. Is there a scale, a sliding scale for fees, and how does that relate to the fees that the hotel and motels and B&Bs pay? Would there be a scale based on size and capacity of the buildings? Thank you.
I would just like to clarify for the audience the difference between these two items. So the one that is being considered at this moment is to actually essentially allow short-term rentals across the town. At the current time, the code does not allow transient lodging based on the definition of a dwelling unit. If it's to be left that way, and the board is interpreted that way, and our attorney has told us that. So this change is to add the definition of short-term rental to the land use code, and then to allow it in every district in the town. Without doing that, in the past, our board has followed our legal advice, and when a commercial entity comes to us, for instance, somebody that wants to build a mall of some sort with apartments above it, we've not been able to approve those as other than rentals for 30 days or more. So this actually corrects that situation.
I don't, yeah.
Yep.
Can I just add, too, that I think there's a little bit
Excuse
of...
me, who are you?
Oh,
Yeah.
Brenda Day, code enforcement officer, sorry. Thought everybody knew who I was, or doesn't want to. Who doesn't want to?
We do.
I just wanted to clarify something, too, that I think people are kind of confused on. Short-term rentals and lodging places like hotels, bed and breakfast, those are two separate things. So hotels, bread and breakfast, those types of things have to go in front of the planning board, be engineered. They're not included in these fees. The fees are for houses that are being rented out as Airbnbs specifically. So I just want to kind of clarify that a little bit, because I've heard that more than once.
Thanks, Brenda. Yeah, come on
Yep.
up, V.
I'm sorry, I'll wait for my comments till later. Thank you.
All right, do we have anybody else that would like to make any public comments
Will we be able to speak on the next one as well?
on,
When the public comments.
Yeah, this is
first.
just to put it in the land use ordinance.
Right, yeah, I think there's more people interested in speaking
Yeah.
on the next one.
on the D?
Yeah.
It's almost like they should have been reversed because...
They should have been, yeah.
Well, on the ballot, they need to be that way.
What's that?
Isn't that the chronological order of how it would have to happen on the ballot?
So,
We'd have to allow short-term rentals and then put in an ordinance? That's the only reason I have it ordered that way.
Yeah,
It's more
I see what you're
clarification for
saying.
me. But I can arrange it however too on the ballot. We can talk about that later.
Okay, yeah, we can figure out. So the question was, I think the reason that this gets put on here, like Ashley was saying, is this part for the wording has to change in order for this part to go through. We'll find out the legal aspect if it has to be in that order. But yes, we will do the same thing for item
For D.
D. All right, so no, what's that?
Nobody else wants to comment on
Yep,
it?
no
See?
other comments, anybody, nobody's online by the looks of it?
Nope.
Okay, go ahead, Deb.
There are some people trying to get into the meeting. I just got a message, said they needed to be let in.
Let it.
Lead, they should automatically.
Oh, you mean on,
I might have pushed it
On Zoom.
Oh, on Zoom.
I was wondering why nobody was there.
All right, so before we vote or do anything, we'll wait for
Yeah.
the online portion to come back.
you'll probably have to explain to these people where we are.
Yep.
Yes.
They'll all pop on and walk at once if I click on the right one.
Okay.
You want us to grab Hannah from back there?
No, it's on. It says somebody's connected.
Hello?
Is it Microsoft Teams?
No.
No.
Go to?
Oh, okay, I was gonna say it didn't look like Zoom.
That's, I'll text this person.
Never heard of go-to.
Yeah, sure, you're on.
I'll pull it up.
I wish Batman was here.
What's that?
Batman? Or some superhero.
I'm gonna test it on my computer.
Okay.
Technical difficulties, please hold. Can I see your agenda real quick? Okay. Okay, hold on, I'm gonna go over here.
No. I offered it to you. No. Okay.
It tells me I'm waiting to do it into,
Oh, there we go.
Sorry, everybody.
All right, Wayne, I see you're on there. Can you hear us now?
We're not muted, we can see that our sound is working because the green bubble.
Yeah, the green bubble
Yeah,
comes
he
up.
might not have a mic on his.
Yeah.
He does, I can see red on his.
It's muted.
Okay.
Okay, for those of you just joining us from our technical difficulties that are online, we are on item number 5C, and does anybody online have any questions for that? We are allowing a 3-minute statement from anybody that's here or online. Okay, hearing none.
Okay. All right, boss.
All right,
You gonna vote?
yep, that's the next part.
Oh,
All right.
Someone's
so-
got their hand up.
Kevin?
What's that?
Kevin.
Kevin?
Oh, yeah, come on up, Kevin.
There you go.
Kevin Ridday, Alpine Drive, West Bridgton. Just a quick note, lots of different views on this. The one that hits me right now is we're a town meeting form of government, which means the keystone is that people vote. There are various opinions on this. It's a tight issue, it's a tough issue. Some people have come to it late and probably don't really understand it the way they should. Yes, I just said that, come to it late and don't really understand it. So I think it would be well if we went to the voters and let them decide. As I say, we're a town meeting form of government, that's what we're supposed to be about. I think we ought to send it to them and let it do it. And I think it's pretty important that we do that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Kevin. Anyone else? All right, and I will call for all those in favor of item 5C. All those opposed? It's going to be 2-2. So now we got to figure out how we do that. Oh, Bob, yeah.
Is 2-2 going on
I
the
think it
ballot?
goes on another vote. Technically, you go to vote again.
We have to vote this again.
I believe it, you keep doing it until the members.
I believe there is in the Maine Moderator's Manual that the tie goes to the affirmative.
Yeah, we'll have to find that out. Can we find that out while we're on?
Either Maine Moderator or Robert's Rules, although we don't really go by Robert's Rules.
This one was just to allow the
Point-
short-term rentals in
Yeah,
the
point of
town.
clarification, this isn't for the,
Yeah. This is
This
just
isn't
to.
for the ordinance, this is,
this is not for the short-term rental ordinance for
Yeah.
registering short-term rentals. This is for
Just-
the code to allow them.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Kevin?
Yep,
Can hold on.
We're researching what a 2-2 tie on this is a result of. Well, some people think it's the other way, Lee.
Yeah, and I'm seeing,
I think you're right, but I don't.
What's that? It goes to the affirmative.
mine is saying it fails because it doesn't have a majority.
I think it fails because it doesn't have a majority.
What I'm reading is it doesn't.
Well, if that fails, then we can't do the other one. And no one could have a short-term rental.
It just says if it's a 2-2 vote, the motion does not pass. A majority requires more affirmative votes than negative votes.
So let me ask you this question.
You can
Maggie may
ask,
have something.
you can.
Hi.
Hi, Maggie Lynn, Church Street, Bridgton, Planning Board member. My question is, if this is not put forth to the voters, how do the current short-term rentals in the community, which I know folks in the room support, how do they remain legal?
Good question.
And how do new ones that are proposed be approved? Because our goal as planning board members is not to restrict short-term rentals. That is not what we're here to do. This motion puts to the voters a chance to allow short-term rentals in the future. Just want to make sure everybody understands that.
You can take a reconsideration if you want.
You're going to change your mind?
Yeah, we might as well.
Then I think you should take another
I
vote
think
here
we'll
for
do
reconsideration.
Reconsideration on the vote and have somebody make a new motion.
do you want me to repeat that same motion then?
Yes.
Okay. Move to certify and place on the referendum ballot question, shall an ordinance entitled Amendments to Bridgton Land Use Code to Regulate Short-Term Rentals be enacted before the voters for consideration on November 3rd, 2026. Need a second?
A second.
All in favor? Or discussion?
Do we want to do any more discussion or just revote?
I would like to say that I know there are a lot of people in this town that have short-term rentals. I'm really concerned if this does not pass, that those will be not legal. And what do those people then do? I mean, we're not even talking about an ordinance in any regulation, any regulatory thing on short-term rent. We're just saying that they are allowed in our town.
Yeah, and that was kind of the discussion I was hearing is, I think we need to do this in this order. Because item 5C is going to allow for people to have short-term rentals.
Yes.
If I understand it correctly right now, the code doesn't allow for short-term rentals in our land use ordinance.
But people have short-term rentals in our town.
Correct.
Yes.
So I think that part has to go in first, then we can discuss the bigger item, which is the regulations of it.
Absolutely.
I think this goes very similar to, you know, when, and Deb, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when we first passed the land use ordinance back in 2019, I believe it was, you couldn't build a ranch house in the town. We have ranch houses all over the place. But it was the wording, so I think we need to do this part first, and then we'll go to the second one.
I have a point of.
Yeah, just come up to the mic.
I don't mean to be a cold blanket, but. I'm Judy Oberg. I live on Memory Lane in Bridgton. I'm just wondering if you could check how you can re-vote after you voted. Could you just check that? I want to make sure that this is done according to Robert's rules so that this doesn't come back to bite us later.
I was looking that up. I'll
Thank you.
grab the book.
I called him. Now, to get it on the ballot, I think it's this week, unless she can perform miracles and say she can do it. Does this have to be voted on?
AI says yes.
The latest.
It's now or never.
It's now we're in.
I didn't know if it was like the end of the month deadline.
What I have, it says yes, unless our bylaws say otherwise. That we can do it, somebody can reconsider, unless our bylaws say otherwise.
I think that's accurate.
Don't you have to have a vote to reconsider? And then you can reconsider.
Yes.
Not to make it more confusing, but I think whoever voted no, which is what carried, right? It carried that it didn't pass, needs to make a motion to
Yes.
reconsider the vote.
Yes, that is correct.
Then that needs to be voted on, and then the original needs to be voted on.
Okay,
That is correct.
so that was premature, the repeat.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to wait to be recognized by the chair.
Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'm a little bit perplexed here that we heard Ms. Joss say that they've had short-term rentals for a long time, right? It goes back generations. People have been doing short-term rentals. I reject the premise that they now become legal because we're going to pass an ordinance to say that short-term rentals are allowed. It's been going on for decades in this town. It seems odd to me that all of a sudden we want to say, okay, well, we want to make them legal when we've had them for forever,
That's right.
right? I don't get this. It's really confusing to me.
It is, and I think part of it, Mark, is, and again, we would have to get, I would assume, advice. But the way our land use code is right now, it doesn't allow them. It's very similar to, like, when you came in 2019 and you wanted to build a ranch house up on, say, Middle Ridge Road, we couldn't allow you to build any ranch houses in Bridgton because the land use ordinance now says you can't do it. So if the land use ordinance says you can't have short-term rentals in the town, which technically right now, our land use ordinance doesn't allow short-term rentals in any district.
It doesn't prohibit them. You guys are assuming because it's not prohibited, it's not permitted.
Right, and that's what we're trying to figure out, is how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, this whole thing is really odd to me. It's been happening here for generations, and now you want to say, well, we got to make it legal. We got to have another ordinance to make it legal. Okay,
Well, this isn't, what we're voting on right now is not an ordinance.
Okay, whatever,
Right now,
whatever you want to
we're
call it.
just voting on an amendment to the land use code ordinance that's already in
It's
place.
an amendment to an ordinance, so it's
Yeah.
an ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can speak.
Yeah.
I'm not,
You know that.
You know this.
there's, unless you don't want short-term rentals in the town, there's no harm to putting this on the ballot, bottom line. And it is weird, Mark, okay? Some years ago, when we did the land use consolidation, the topic of short-term rentals came up, and we were told by our attorney, they're already prohibited based upon the way, the definition of a dwelling unit, and the fact that short-term rentals are listed nowhere in the land use table. So, we've been interpreting it that way when commercial products come our way. There's really probably no way to manage that when somebody comes for a permit to build a home. You don't ask them, is it a short-term rental? You just give them a permit to build a home. So this is just really correcting an oversight in the code.
To answer the question about Robert's Rules of Orders, according to the book, it says that the same motion cannot be again brought before the assembly at the same session except by a motion to reconsider or to rescind the vote. But it may be introduced again at any future session. So it does require a vote to rescind or reconsider. And then we'd have to
Then you have to-
redo the motion and
Yes.
redo the vote.
And do I have to do that?
Whoever voted no would need to make
Have
the
to make the
motion
motion.
to reconsider.
That's correct.
Okay.
May I make a comment?
Yeah.
D. Miller, Sunset Road in Bridgton. It's been my understanding for a long time that there are two ways to look at an absence of something within an ordinance or a law. The absence of it can mean it is allowed, or the absence of it can mean it is not allowed. In other words, the ordinance not having that language offers no guidance whatsoever to the people of the town who are using our ordinance and codes. So we're not saying, in my opinion, that, as Mark suggests, we're saying something is legal that's been going on for a long time. We're recognizing in the code that this exists, because before this, there is absolutely nothing that gives any guidance. And all the discussion of law that I've been a part of, you can make an argument, well, it doesn't say you can't do it, and the other parties can say, well, it doesn't say you can do it. So it leaves the community in a limbo. And it leaves the town in limbo, because without a specific mention of anything in our ordinances, the town really doesn't have a specific weigh in to do anything. So this would just be putting something in and acknowledging that it already exists. It's not saying it's legal, it's just saying it's here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick.
I don't feel this has been vetted, and it may be as simple as, yes, we need to include it in all districts. But the fact of the matter is, people don't build a short-term rental. They build a building, and then they decide what they're going to do. Maybe they plan to do short-term rentals, but when they go to the code enforcement officer with a building, they're not going to say, oh, by the way, we're going to do a short-term rental here. Is that okay? And blah, blah, blah. And people have been renting their secondary properties or sometimes their primary properties as short-term rentals. So I feel so this is open to discussion. There's plenty of discussion here. There hasn't been any discussion on it. If we say, yes, you can have short-term rentals all over town, so then corporate America, and I'm just saying that because I can't think of a better term. I don't hate corporate America, but say some corporate entity comes and says, oh, hey, they specifically want short-term rentals all over town, so let's buy up a piece of property, and so then it's not a short-term rental. So there's been no discussion about this, and I'm reluctant to change the land use code ordinance with no discussion and clearly no understanding. And I'm going to say that I don't have a good finite understanding for what the ramifications or not any ramifications of doing this. So that's why I voted no. And a lot of you have probably a lot more information about it regarding it than I do, but I would suggest that my next door neighbor, when she shows up to vote, might not have a clue what that's about. So we're asking him to vote on something that hasn't been discussed. There's been no transparency about it. Just vote on it. That's my reason for voting no. And I don't imagine we're going to run out and shut down every short-term rental because it's not on the land use ordinance. I mean, I just can't see that happening. Has anybody ever come to the planning board with a short-term rental?
Yes, they did. So, I think the board's been very transparent in their public meetings. And we had workshops when we did the consolidated code, which people were invited to, where
I'm not talking, when I said transparency, I didn't mean the planning board. I meant us.
We can educate people, obviously, before they go to vote, but because the definition of a dwelling unit prohibits transient lodging, we've interpreted that to mean, for instance, if this happened with actually one of the developments in which there were going to be stores downstairs and apartments upstairs. Because of that condition in the definition, and because there's no short-term rental on the land use table, and because the instructions for the land use table say if it's not there, it's prohibited, unless you can prove certain things, then what we've done in that case, and there haven't been many of them that have come to the board, but in the case where there were stores downstairs and apartments upstairs, it was conditioned to be not transient or 30-day, minimum 30-day rentals. So we're just trying to correct that. That's really what it is.
I
Hi, Mary Turok, 4 Hillcrest Avenue. I'd just like to say that Carmen is concerned that her neighbor's not going to know what a short-term rental is, understand the definition. But we have to trust the voters that they're informed on every election, on every issue. And we can't just say, oh, we don't think you understand this, we're not going to let you vote on it. We have to trust the people. That's their right to vote. That's just my opinion.
No, what I'm saying is that we haven't had a lot of discussion about this particular thing. We've had a lot of discussion about short-term rentals, but this came up relatively recently. I think staff and the boards have been aware of it, and it seems like a simple fix, but I don't think the general public has heard any debate or conversation like this that's going on in this room at this moment. So I wasn't saying that there just hasn't been this discussion, that's all.
But there's been the discussion about short-term rentals, and everyone should know what a short-term rental is.
I'm
and
sure they do,
understand that.
but they may
So
not
I feel the
understand
voters
about
should
this
have the-
change to the land use code.
I just
In
feel-
fact, I'm not sure I understand the change. It seems innocuous enough, but
That's
is
your
it?
opinion. I feel that it should go to the voters.
May I just say another thing? Carmen, I appreciate your confusion because a lot of things confuse me too. And I would always say there are too many words in this ordinance or code. But you have to take these two items really together. So the item we're discussing now just puts a statement in the land use code, in the land use tables. And then the standards applicable to that are then in the ordinance that's going to be discussed shortly. Because what we're doing is, really, as Mark suggests, we're just recognizing the status quo. Because there are short-term rentals, we know that.
So is there a definition in the land use code
Well, that's what we're
regarding
trying to
short-term
do. That's what we're
rentals?
trying to do, to put that in the code, and then anything related to that as to an ordinance would come from that. You can't really, the way we have our land use ordinance with all of these approved uses, you have to have the use in there before you can make regulation standards about it.
And there's no definition in there now for short-term.
So
we're saying if
we're
it
putting
looks
it
like a
in,
duck.
and we have no definition regarding what
Right,
it
we're saying
is.
if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
Not necessarily in Bridgton.
But then we have to tell you what you do with your duck.
Excuse me, Dee.
I'm not
There's not a
even-
definition in the code today. This amendment before you would place the definition in the code.
If I could just say something, I think the confusion, a lot of this confusion stems from people not, and including me, and then when I read the motions, I was like, well, okay, why is C different than D? I mean, we should have, that right there should have been clarified a little more and maybe we wouldn't be at this spot.
No, we would be.
Because it is very confusing, and as somebody, I can't remember who asked, like, I don't understand the difference between C and D. And once it was explained, it seemed like, yeah, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? I mean, you have to have a short-term rental in order to put an ordinance for it. If you don't have a short-term rental,
In the land use.
then you can't even do the D. You can't even look at D, you know? So, and maybe, Carmen, you think that we're gonna have short-term rentals, whether we're allowed to have it in this town or not, but it might come back at some point and people might, you know, all of a sudden realize that they can't have their short-term rentals. You know, I mean, this board is this way now, but who knows what's gonna happen in the future. So, I mean, I think that since we already have short-term rentals in this town, we should acknowledge it and we should put it in the land use.
So when you come up with your definition regarding what a short-term rental is, does that have to go to the voters as well?
No, so I'm gonna read it here. So in your packets, we have the certification of a proposed ordinance entitled Amendments to the Bridgton Land Use Code to Regulate Short-Term Rentals and Order. If you look at the very back last page, it gives you short-term rental definition that is going to be added to the land use ordinance, which is the use, control, management, or operation of a legally existing dwelling unit for rent to transient occupants for dwelling, sleeping, or lodging purposes for fewer than 30 consecutive days for direct or indirect compensation, excluding bed and breakfast, small inns, boarding houses, hotels, large inns, motel units, and recreational vehicles. So we have the definition, and that's what we're gonna be putting into the land use ordinance, the land use ordinance as an allowable use in any district, which is on the third page, tells you that it's allowed in, you know, DVB one, ground story, upper stories, DVB two, DVN, IC, OC, MUC, LN, OV, and RN. And I can explain those if people need it, but it's, you know, downtown village business district 1, 2, inner corridor, outer corridor, mixed use corridor, lakeside neighborhood, rural neighborhood, and so forth.
And people would be voting on that definition, Dan, because it would be in the amendment.
Right, that's what's, this is what's going to the voters, is this piece here. This is just a shortened version of it on the actual referendum.
Okay, I'm just going to apologize to all of you that I did not read the back. I'm a little embarrassed by that and should be. My apology.
All right, so at this point, what we need to do, because we still technically have a motion on the floor. Maureen, I believe you made that motion.
I did.
I need you to withdraw that motion.
Absolutely. Do you want me to read the entire motion or just
No,
I
just
withdraw
say
the
you-
last motion?
You withdraw your motion.
Yes, and that should be seconded.
Yeah,
Did you withdraw
right,
it
to
yet?
withdraw it, you have to second it.
Yes, I withdraw that motion.
I second it.
Okay, thank you.
Now, what do you do with your vote, your 2-2 vote?
Right now,
We're
we're just
getting-
withdraw,
we're-
we're gonna get to the next part. So
The
all
process
those in
is
favor
moving
of the
forward with that.
withdrawal of the motion? 4-0.
And now it's basically like the first time we voted on it again.
Correct.
Well, you have to
You have to.
I have
vote
to make,
to,
I
or
have to make the
whoever
motion.
voted.
One of the
no.
two noes has to bring this forward to
Yeah.
pursue this next vote.
Yeah.
Correct. All right, so I will make a motion to certify and place on referendum ballot question shall an ordinance entitled Amendments to the Bridgton Land Use Code to Regulate Short-Term Rentals be enacted before the voters for consideration on November 3rd, 2026.
I second that motion.
That's what just happened.
We did that
We
first.
did that.
That just happened. We need to vote on it.
Are you doing a reconsideration now? Or are you just without, basically withdrawing the original vote?
Right.
A new
Did that.
motion has been made and seconded,
Okay,
and we're about to vote.
okay.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
Any more discussion from the board? All right, all those in favor of item 5C,
Of reconsidering the vote.
of reconsidering the vote?
Yeah, I didn't get a vote on that yet.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did.
I have motion made by the chair to
Yeah.
reconsider. I have a second from Amy. I have no vote.
Okay.
We have to, we have to vote to
sorry, yeah.
reconsider and
Yeah.
then bring the motion.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, okay. So all those in favor of the
Of
reconsideration? 4-0.
Thank you.
Now we sound like a broken record. I'm gonna read this again for you, is that okay?
Now you can.
All right, I'll move to certify and place on referendum ballot question, shall an ordinance entitled Amendments to the Bridgton Land Use Code to regulate short-term rentals be enacted before the vote is for consideration on November 3rd, 2026. Any discussion on that? Oh, sorry,
You need a
second.
second.
Yep. There's been a lot of back and forth. We have a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor for item 5C? 4-0. And now we'll move on to 5D. And as I stated earlier, we will allow the public to talk on this one as well.
Okay, I'll read it. I move to certify and place on referendum ballot question, shall an ordinance entitled Town of Bridgton Short-Term Rental Registration Ordinance be enacted before the voters for consideration on November 3rd, 2026.
Second.
Any discussion? I'll start with the board first.
I have read this short-term rental ordinance, and I find it to be very reasonable. It seems like and it says it right in the Article 1 purpose. It's intended to protect the public health and safety from adverse impacts resulting from the proliferation of short-term rentals within the town. You can read the rest of it. But it seems like it's also there to protect the environment, wastewater, and to make sure that there's parking, trash management, all things that really should occur with any dwelling. But as we know, short-term rentals sometimes, the people that are in it are not the owners of it. So those things might not actually be respected. So I find this to be not a limiting ordinance at all. I think it's there for safety. There's an article in there talking about there has to be somebody that is within 60 minutes. I think that's reasonable. A lot of people who own short-term rentals probably do not live 60 minutes from the rental, but they need to designate somebody that can come in case there is an emergency. The only question that I think needs to be dealt with is what is the cost going to be for registration? That's not in here at all, and will be determined by the select board currently.
Yep.
But we haven't discussed that. Does that need to be before it goes out to? No.
Once it goes out to vote, if it passes, then we would then set the fees at the select board level.
Okay. Now that might be a limiting, something that people are worried about.
Exactly.
So, I mean, we can't even give a range of what it would be? I mean, are we talking like thousands of dollars, or are we talking $100?
It could be either,
Yeah.
because this is a voluntary ordinance. There's no way that we can enforce it because it is voluntary. So we don't know. We want it to be, I would want it to be net zero. So whatever the cost is for the program, we know the software is $4,000 a year, and then we have to figure in the time and then postage and all that good stuff. So if 20 short-term rentals decide to register, it's going to be $7,000 divided by 20. If 500 register, that's better, but we don't know. So because this isn't really, it doesn't really have an enforcement mechanism to it, it's all voluntary.
I think it does have an enforcement mechanism to it. First of all, the clerk, Ashley is the one that would approve the registration application after she shows it to the code, right? Code officer and the fire, to make sure that that's safe, and the police. So I think it does have, what is not regulated is it is it's a self, inspection. So people, just sort of like the mooring one, actually. So it's a self-inspection, so.
The mooring one's not a self-inspection.
Let's not get into that.
Yeah, we're not gonna get into the
Okay,
mooring
well-
one, but I just don't want you to get confused because the mooring one is not a self-inspection like this one is. The mooring one would actually, you
Okay,
have
probably,
to have it
all right,
inspected.
but it is, this one is a self-inspection.
It is.
Well, it's
Yes.
self-inspection with the town maintaining the ability to go
Right.
and inspect if
Yes,
needed.
yes.
So limited self-inspection, really.
It's a self-report, basically. It's not a
Yes.
it's a
Yes.
self-report.
Yes.
And so, I mean, the bottom line for me is that this seems like a very reasonable, non-restrictive mechanism to make sure that our short-term rentals that we have just decided are going to be okay in our town are safe, are following specific, very, or probably things that they should be following anyway, based on our land use and other ordinances. And I'm for this ordinance.
Lauren? I'm gonna do the board first, then we're gonna go to the general public.
I feel the same way. I feel that this is really non-restraining. It's just some common sense guidelines for keeping things safe in town, parking, septic, keeping, quality of water. We don't want to have a dozen people in a one-bedroom camp on a lake with sewage flowing into our water. So I think it's just really looking at common sense and how do we maintain this and maintain the quality of our town and the neighbors and the neighborhood around it. And I don't see it as very restrictive. I think I support this.
Carmen?
I said my piece.
Okay. All right, I'll turn it over to the public. Just again, when you come up, just identify yourself, please.
Donna Joss on Millbrook Road. I just have a quick question. If it's voluntary to register, then it seems to me like people that could easily pass the protocols would come up and say, yeah, my place is clean, and I've got septic, and I've got clean water, et cetera, and I'll take care of the trash. And the ones who aren't going to do that are not going to come and register.
I don't think it's voluntary to register. It's
Not voluntary.
It's a
Oh.
self-report.
There's no penalty if they don't register.
Yes, there is.
Like what?
There can be.
We'll revoke their registration, that they didn't register.
Oh,
There can be. Excuse me. Violations. Providing false or misleading information, et cetera. Failure to comply with operational standards, advertising, offering for rent, violation of any short-term rental registration, certification, condition criteria, advertising, offering for rent, and/or operating a short-term rental without a registration issued by the town clerk. May you skip to the end, or skip to the enforcement? So it says in here, you're in violation if you don't register with the town clerk. And then, it's not. And then it says, it talks about enforcement and what can happen.
So what can happen?
It's right under
Well,
penalties.
what can happen?
It says in there, they can be fined. That's an option. It's often what's done.
It says in here that we can fine them.
fine. Subject to fines,
Among other
penalties,
things, if you would
actions.
like me to read it.
Yeah, I would. So people know.
So I got it right here, Deb. It's
Thank you.
8.41 penalties. Any person who violates any term or condition of a short-term rental registration or who violates or continue to violate any provision of this ordinance after receiving Notice of such violation is subject to such fines, penalties, actions, and orders as authorized by 30-AMRS subsection 4452. Any such fines or penalties may be in addition to any suspension or revocation imposed in accordance with the provisions of sections 8.1 and 8.3.
And there's an appeal process as well behind that.
So, it's voluntary registration, or are we going to spend town staff time researching, finding people, going after them? I just, we have things in place that already take care of noise, that already take care of, we do, we have a PD. We have a PD.
There's no.
If you have somebody next door.
There is no noise ordinance in this town. and
There
I know
is
that.
no noise ordinance,
Right,
but
I
if
know
you
that
have
because I make
excessive
my own,
noise, if you have excessive noise going on at your home, you're gonna call the PD, and they're probably gonna respond to it, at least out of curiosity to find out what's going on. People have been renting their places for years. I just don't see the need for this, and I think it's a waste of time, it's a waste of staff time, and it's a waste of money.
So can I just make one
Yeah.
clarifying comment? Staff doesn't have to search around for people and figure out how to register them. The software, which was a condition of getting such an ordinance, or the town voted in, will interrogate VRBO and Airbnb at the very least, and will produce a written list of the owner and their address. And then the software can also be used to send out an application form to register, and which I believe is going to be able to be done online. And that will be the same with enforcement, with violations, and Brenda can talk a lot more on this, but it'll be very similar to what she does now for violations, which are automated. So, of course, it will take staff time to set up and some time to administrate, but much of this is automated.
Hi, I'm Lynn Williams, 81 Highland Road. I own the Noble House Inn. I've been a part of the planning board process for the last year and a half, just because I have a belief that if you have a short-term rental, which I know legacy, like camps, all that, have been a thing in the state of Maine for years. I've been in hospitality my whole life. My parents had one for 40 years. I own the Noble House Inn. I have to go in hoops for my licensing, for all of my, permits with the town, with the state, with health, with a fire. I ask that if you're renting out your homes, you make your septics safe, so you're not pumping into the lakes. You're making sure that your fire alarms are correct, your CO2, all of the things I have to do. It should be the same. And there should be registrations. I pay a lot of money for my licensing, my registrations with the state, with the town. They should be doing the same thing. I also have a problem with events being held at Airbnbs. It's a huge problem in this town. It's a huge problem across the country. I have to go through all kinds of hoops. I think you all know that on the board. With noise ordinance, I make sure that we stop our music no later than 10 o'clock at night. And there are camps, houses on different ponds and lakes that allow large gatherings for weddings. It's detracting from my business as well. And as a business owner in this town, that's important. And I hope that you guys are supporting our businesses and making sure that there's a fair playing field. That's all I'm looking for.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lynn.
Lee Eastman, Ingalls Road. I'm not in favor of this at all. I think it's substantial overreach. I think when people buy property, they should be responsible property owners, but I don't think this type of legislation is fair for anyone. And, I think that You know, Airbnb was founded in 2008. So we're 18 years into this, and now all of a sudden we decide we need an ordinance. I think that's pretty unfair. Just before I moved here 30 years ago, I rented a house on Sebago Lake from a real estate agency that was doing short-term rentals. I'm very, very sure that back then there was no ordinance that controlled what that person did to be able to get money from me to pay their taxes because they weren't going to be there in the wintertime. They didn't want to be there, so they rented it to me. So when I look at things like that, I really struggle with the fact that, I wrote a note to the planning board, and Brenda, I'm going to apologize because evidently I'm breaking the law because I did Airbnb at my house. And evidently it's not regulated, so I'm in trouble. So I'll say that outright in public. I wrote a note to the planning board about it, and I went through the same process as everyone else has to. I have what used to be a garage converted to a pool house. I went through all the permitting processes, put in a separate septic, have a well. And with Airbnb in particular, for some reason we're all focused on Airbnb, but short-term rentals is really where we're at. Most of those all have conditions of rentals. You can't rent and then get a poor ranking and then find out that, you're not going to rent more. Because if you don't get like a 5-star rating all the time, that's an issue. Because less and less people are likely to rent from you. So then you're dropping your price trying to get what you can. So I just feel like, we're going down a road. We have ordinances in place right now. One in particular that I know Brenda knows I'm very passionate about. The junkyard rule, we're not even close on instilling and enforcing an ordinance that's very important. And you want to talk about worrying about water. When you have junk cars in a yard that sit for years, and there's a chance that petroleum gets in somebody's well water, that's a bigger issue than what we're talking about right now. And we're failing to do that now. And now we're talking about another ordinance. I just think that's just wrong.
Thank you, Lee.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Mark Lopez, 438 Commons Drive. I've heard a few things tonight. First comment, I appreciate you saying that this should be cost neutral to the taxpayers. Board Member Strum, I heard you say that you're concerned about the cost. So am I. But I'm not concerned about the cost of the Airbnb owners. I'm concerned about the cost to the taxpayers. Okay, every year our taxes go up higher than the rate of inflation. Okay, and I keep hearing about how this is going to be implemented, regulated. I don't know how many Airbnbs we have in the town. It's going to be hundreds. Okay, do we really think that the code office can handle that many, even with the software? And I hear that the software is going to interrogate people that have had Airbnbs. That was the word I heard. Okay, I think I have the podium right now? Okay. I heard that the software would interrogate, I don't know who it's interrogating. If it's interrogating who was ever using your software, which is, I assume, people. So people that have had their rental units for years are now going to have to go, and some of them may not have the savvy to do it if they're old like me. I just don't understand how we expect this to get implemented, how it's going to be enforced. If this is going to go to the voters, it should go with full knowledge of what the cost is going to be to the voters of this, okay? How's it going to affect our taxes? What's the total cost? I think it's important to know that. I mean, we had a land use ordinance that we put in, and we've spent hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars amending that ordinance, fixing it, over the last several years. Let's not make the same mistake. Let's figure out what this is going to cost. Let's have some real numbers, not talking the abstract. We're talking about, well, you could be fined. Well, how much is the fine? Right? That stuff should be in this ordinance before it goes out to the voters. They should know what the penalty is. Yeah, let's not make the same mistake. Let's figure out what this is going to cost the taxpayers before we advance it. Now, I'm not saying it shouldn't be advanced. I'm saying it shouldn't be advanced right now. Okay? Let's get those numbers so the voters can be educated about what they're voting on. Thank you.
Maggie Lynn, Church Street, Planning Board member. We have been working on this for a year and a half. There have been public workshops, there have been public meetings that everybody in this room could have attended, and several of you did. Thank you for your participation. I'm sure it's the same case. I don't come to every select board meeting, workshop. We often don't have folks in the room. It's always great when people show up. I think that is the appropriate time to bring these concerns to the table. We have done a lot of work. We know the costs. We know the costs of the software, and we have designed this in good faith to not be a burden to the taxpayers. This ordinance is not going to raise taxes for the taxpayers of Bridgton. It's not. That's a bad faith argument. We are here as community members who care about the safety of the people who come here and stay, who care about people, yes, being able to afford their property taxes. So they're hosting a hosted STR. We are not suggesting restricting STRs. We are simply trying to protect the safety of the people who stay here. The water quality, yes, because an overflowing septic is a threat to our lakes and all of our well-being, because that's why people come here. The Land Use Planning Commission, which regulates unorganized territories, townships in Maine, has a short-term rental registration. The town of Freiburg has a short-term rental registration. The town of Casco has a short-term rental registration. We are not the first. We are not going out on a limb. This is very straightforward. It's in good faith. We've put a lot of time and effort into this. I think it should go to the voters.
You guys can come up. One comment. Go ahead, Ken. While you're walking up, I'm just going to make Mark. The reason that we won't put a dollar figure in the actual written ordinance is if we put a dollar figure in here, and Lee, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if I put a dollar figure in this ordinance and that gets voted on, that dollar figure stays there forever. If we want to change that violation from say 200 to 500, we have to go back to the town and vote. We keep those out purposely, so when we do our yearly budget reviews, the fees and fines are all in there, and we can decide then what the, those fees are. That's why you'll never see a dollar figure inside of the ordinance that way.
Dr. Gibbs.
Yes, Ken Gibbs, 27 Millbrook. I just wanted to say I hear the voters, but the people that are immediately impacted by the short-term rental ordinance do not have a vote in this town. And that is probably intrinsically unfair. Now, this town is supported by the seasonal houses that are on the lakes of this town. They contribute over 75% of the taxes to this town. And if you ask them to pay a little bit more and you put impositions on them, I mean, you're already, as a town, taxing them as much as they can possibly stand. I mean, the new assessment on the lakefronts is producing, I know you have kept the mill rate down, but there's going to be a future when you say, oh, I think we need the mill rate to go up a little bit. And of course, it's going to be the lakefront seasonal housing owners that are going to pay most of your taxes. So as a consequence, that's why Donna suggested that there should be some sort of a grandfathering in this particular ordinance if it's going to go. The real problem is not the seasonal houses around the lake. They take very good care of the lake because their property values depend upon the lakes being well taken care of. And no, they don't?
I know a few who don't. They're one of the bigger problems.
Oh,
Yeah, I do.
you do?
Don't get it. But.
You know, but we don't want to have...
Well, it can.
Just let him
Yeah.
have
No,
the
it's
mic.
just about the septics on some of the smaller camps that are old.
Well, that if there's a septic problem, it should be taken care of by the plumbing inspector in the town. And I can tell you that any of the cottages along the lake, the associations, if there's a septic problem, it's immediately reported. I mean, they don't want that there. So again, to reiterate, it would be nice, something that has happened for generations and generations and actually supports most of this town. Why put an imposition on them? Why put extra cost on them when they're already, stretched and have to do a little renting in order to make the taxes? So that's my point.
Thank you, Ken.
Can I just say something? I hear you about that, but I also know that the rental fees have gone up substantially, so they are making money. So people, I'm not feeling too sorry for them. And the market has changed for short-term rentals since those little camps on the lake. I mean, with the internet and Airbnb and Verbo or whatever it's called, and
VRBO.
yeah, I mean, there are people renting these places sight unseen from who knows where and coming in with who knows how many people sometimes. And I think as a town, we sort of need to understand those people, who's coming to these, and, make sure that it's safe for everybody and also environmentally safe. It's not like, like 1950 when people would rent their little cabins on the lake. This is the age of the internet, where everybody is, it's a different scene. And prices are very expensive, and have you looked at how much some of these Airbnbs are going for?
Again, we're not gonna get into discussion back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the chair won't permit it.
So,
Hi, I'm Judy Oberg, back again. I live on Memory Lane. I'm also a Realtor, and so I know a lot about these issues. And Deb asked me to come. I have to apologize. I came to the first meeting. This has been a really busy year for me for other obligations, and I haven't been able to come to the public hearings. So I do have some questions. When we first started this, it was going to be a registration only. We were going to ask people to come and register so that we had knowledge of who owned it in case there were problems, and that was going to be it.
That's still the case.
Yes, but it has morphed now into saying when you do register, that you now have to have the parking plan, the septic information, proof of your primary residence, self-inspection, trash plan, and all of that. I'm just wondering how that came up, because this was not the original intent. It was going to be a registration, because I know that people were saying they were upset that we were going to go to a restrictive short-term rental, and we were told, no, it's going to be just a registration so that the people in the town office know who to contact. So I'm not sure when it morphed into what it is now. I'm definitely in favor of having registration, and you were going to buy the software for that, which would be fine. I just don't know how we went on to becoming restrictive. I also want to say that our town in the state of Maine very much relies on, this is vacation land. And that's what a huge amount of our economy is here, is attracting people to come and stay here. One of the first things that people ask me when I show property is, do they allow short-term rentals? Now, if you own a condo, if you own a house, if you own all sorts of things, and I say, well, we have restrictions, et cetera, that's a real detriment. I would really is going to enjoy saying, sure, we just have a registration policy, which is what this started as, was a registration policy. Now we've added a lot of things in a lot of places. So I don't know where that came from, and I apologize again. I was not at the other meetings where you decided to put in restrictions. So that's my concern, that we are going to now have a very restrictive group of requirements. And who's to know, if I have a place that has 5 bedrooms and I decide to have people come for a day during my short-term rental, I'm going to have a family reunion and there's going to be 40 people there. Is that a problem? She's saying yes.
Events are.
That's not an event, that's my family reunion.
If you rent for less than 14, well, up to 14 days a year, you rent, then it's excluded from the registration process. So, and what you're doing is having say, a family reunion, which is not for monetary reasons. And many people here, myself included, have those sorts of gatherings. And this does nothing, absolutely nothing to restrict those.
Although Airbnb does, I will say that. They're very restrictive, and the owners will be restrictive and say no gatherings are allowed.
Right, so that's where Airbnb has their own restrictions. So we are taking on those restrictions as a town that we're going to be doing. So I was definitely in favor of having registration. I think that's fair. I think we need to know where people are so that we can contact them. And I'm just not sure where the rest came from. And again, I wasn't there when you decided to do that.
Thank you, Judy.
I'm Dee Miller, and I'm back again. And Dan knows, and some of you, Carmen knows, I have made every positive recommendation for this ordinance for about 10 years now. I've been a broken record. I want to say a couple of things generally. As much as I admire Lee, and I do, you can't say that a short-term rental registration ordinance won't work because a junkyard ordinance doesn't work. Each has its own problems of enforcement and its own difficulties. So it's very difficult to do that. It's good to talk about the value of new ordinances. We have to do it. But what we want to do is not talk about the regulations, but talk about whether or not the ordinance fits the public interest. Because there's no reason to have an ordinance if it does not serve the public interest. So these are not regulations for their own sake. They are common sense, as Amy mentioned, regulations that apply to your own house. Because if you're going to build a certain number of bedrooms with closets, you have to have a certain size septic system. And if you're going to build a little cottage, you don't. And you need to have an occupancy permit before you can move into your home. I mean, this is just standard. Anyway, what I want to say is this in the public interest? Is this something that the town has the responsibility to do? Now, the fact that other municipalities have passed similar ordinances attests to the fact that all of these municipalities consider this within the public interest. And the public interest, to me, for this town is protection. Now, we've already heard from established traditional lodging venues who need protection. They're paying their fees, they're doing all the things they're supposed to do, which are listed, and they could be called restrictions, but they could be called standards, which they are. And they are needing protection from unfettered competition from these uncounted and unidentified short-term rental lodging venues, which now, as I think Maureen mentioned, are international in scope, on the internet, and anyone can access them. It's a big business now. Hotels are doing it now, too. So it's not just a widow like myself who might want to get help paying taxes. GP-COG has estimated that there are as many in some municipalities of 400 uncounted and unidentified STR venues. Each one has at least 4 immediate neighbors, front, back, side, side, and many on the street, and they need protection. These neighbors who are finding it sometimes very difficult to use their own homes in a quiet and productive way and to support their property values and their peace of mind. Now, we all pay taxes for our home. So if we don't protect the taxpayer who's living next to a noisy B&B. Now, in my community, we're lucky because we have ways, bylaws and covenants to work on these things. We have in our community a limit of 30 days. You can't rent for less than 30 days. Other people don't have that.
All right, Dee, I'm gonna have you get back onto the subject here. We do allow 3 minutes. You're going on 6.5 right now.
You know what? I've given 24 years to
I
this
understand
town.
that. I've given a lot of my time as well.
My 1.5
This
pages,
is,
Dan.
I'm the chair of the meeting.
Yes,
We
you
allow people
are.
3 minutes. You're on 6.5. Make your final
I'm
point, please.
6.5?
Yes.
All right, here's something else. Visitors who come to our town and stay in these rentals assume that they're safe because they are doing business in Bridgton. But we don't know that they're safe. We don't know that there are 16 people sleeping in an attic with one stairway. We don't know that. This is how we get to know that and protect the people who come to our town. So it seems to me that this is something within the public interest. We have spent 2 years. We have spent legal fees. We have spent staff money. We've already made an investment in these things. And if you don't want the ordinance, vote against it in November. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dee.
I still love you. I still love you.
My old debate partner over there.
But let's see if you still love me when I'm finished, Dee.
Well, I don't know.
No, not you, Dee. I said Lee, to be
Oh,
clear.
no, you and we have to work that out.
Thank you. A couple of quick things. On fees. Fees are supposed to be in good public policy relative to the cost of administering them. So if the fee costs are what they are, divided by the number of users, you get your fee. If you're over that, it's frowned upon. You'll find MMA talking about that being frowned upon. You're not supposed to make money on fees. If you make money, it's supposed to be a little bit to maybe go for a year or two or something like that. But the reason they don't allow that or look badly on that is because some people would try to use fees as a way of stopping something from happening. For example, make this fee $10,000, you're not going to have people registering and having short-term rentals. So that addresses that. Well, that would be an aside. But Judy, you have no reason to apologize for coming to the planning board to help them with questions. You came to the CDAC to help us understand short-term rentals, and several other realtors did the same thing. So lots of people put in good input to this. On some of the extra things that are in there that you didn't think were going to be in there, Judy, this had to go through staff and then through the attorney. I've never seen an ordinance come back from the attorney that's the same way it went in. They all have their things they want to get square. We may want to just get a user-friendly document that everybody can work from. They have things they want to make sure they can win in court, yada, yada, yada. So that's why some of those things are there. Another member of the CDAC this weekend ran some numbers, and he came up with 373 short-term rentals now being advertised in Bridgton. I don't know if that's right, I have no idea. The ranges we've heard before were from 200 to 800, so that's about in the middle. Another look over the weekend, I believe, came up with some rentals, and I can't believe this, going for 9 and 10, and one for 13,000 a week. A week. In 1973, when we bought our house, if you told me I could get 1,300 a week, I would have been ecstatic. Nothing like that. So, you know, you're talking real money here, folks, and a $100 fee is not going to, if they rent it 1 week, a $100 fee is not going to make a difference. And then picking up on what Dee said about public policy, we are talking about public policy here and what's good for the whole town, what's good for people in town, on the lakes, second homeowners, first homeowners, everybody. And it's not really, in my view, I mean, you don't know if I support it or not support it, because I'm looking at public policy, not necessarily what I personally view. One more quickie, if I can. I have to disagree with Maggie very strongly. She said there were no people, no folks in this room. I was always by that pillar.
Craig Messenger, Bridgton Fire Inspector. I was asked to come up here and talk on behalf of the fire department, but I'd be remiss to do that because I'm here as my own citizen and as a member of public safety for over 40 years. I think I have enough experience to talk in that realm. I'm in favor of this ordinance primarily because we as public safety folks have no ability to look into any of these, the safety and the septic issues and so on and so forth, any of these short-term rentals. It's illegal for us to do that. I worked in the city of Portland when they did short-term rentals in there in 2016, and I listened to the, oh my God, the sky's gonna fall, and 8, 9 years later, it's a beautiful program. It's running perfectly. Landlords are happy too, I know, believe it or not, because we were able to educate them. And they can come to us and say, hey, I got this problem, I got that problem, what can I do about it? Us, the police department, code enforcement, we all work together. And I envision that that's probably what could happen here. My second point is these short-term rentals, let's not fool ourselves, they're businesses. Everywhere else in the town of Bridgton, we require a business to have at least a permit. Why aren't we requiring short-term rentals to have a permit? We're requiring short-term rentals to do, not even come close to the same things as the Noble House, Justin MacGyver and his Bridgton Hotel down there. These folks are jumping through all the hoops that you guys have seen. Yet a short-term rental in Moose Pond that has 12 bedrooms and is essentially, in our world, a hotel, needs nothing. No inspections, no enforcement, no nothing. So I hope that you folks will vote to put this on the ballot to go before the voters in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
I promise you I wouldn't embarrass you, but I probably did.
You never embarrass me, my friend. Never.
Very good.
Thank you. Anybody online?
Yeah, I'm gonna go there next. Is there anybody online that wants to make a comment?
It's working, but they haven't raised.
They'd have a raised hand.
Yeah, I
or
would have a
something.
raised
Yeah,
hand
okay.
if anyone wanted to talk.
Okay,
Could
yeah.
I just ask
Come on right up.
I'm going to refer back to my original meeting that I went to. We talked about whether or not it would be necessary to hire someone to handle things. And so have you decided whether or not you, excuse me, be hiring a person to handle this?
No, we haven't.
Brenda, are you doing this? I can't get her on the phone now, so.
Says code enforcement officer.
So Ashley Albert,
will be doing the registrations, just like she does registrations for restaurants and that sort of thing. I come into play when somebody doesn't register and it becomes a violation. Going on that violation, I think Mark brought it up, what is those fees? Those fees are the same as any other violation in town. It's the $100 minimum, $2,500 maximum a day. So if they're in violation, they can get that fine. As always, we try to work with them prior to doing that, but that is the same state statute for fines. But, so yes, I will be enforcing the registration and enforcing any violations.
Two of you will handle it.
Two of us, yeah. Well, and Craig, I can't forget Craig.
Did anybody want to talk online?
No.
Yeah, so Deb Brazini, 35 Summit Drive. I'm obviously in favor of this. I'd like to give just very real short review. Over a year and a half, we had 12 workshops. We put together a data package that basically estimated how many SDRs there were in town, estimated the administrative cost, estimated the cost of the software, and actually then sorted out what that might lead to in a fee. Was not a very high number, we'll say that much. It seems to me that the vote on this board is probably going to be split today in some fashion. And I would encourage you then to vote to at least send this to the voters of the town and let them make the decision. I would also point out, and I really hesitate to do this, but I feel compelled, that after a joint workshop with the select board about a month later, this topic was on the agenda as to what should be done. And a motion was made, and I'll read it directly. A motion was made by Chair Turog that the Select Board recommend that a short-term rental ordinance be brought to the voters at the November 2026 election. The motion was seconded by Member Castleman Ross, 4 approve, 1 opposed, which was Mr. McHatton. There was also a motion made after that to have town staff draft this ordinance. Now, I don't know if this is a point of order, whether you should actually be doing a reconsideration of this original motion, because a board did decide to do this. They directed action to town staff. Town staff took that action, spent quite a bit of time on it, put it through the paces, and town staff, in order to produce the ordinance that the board directed be drafted, also needed to get legal guidance. And legal did add a lot of the stuff they do, the legalese, to make sure that if anything was challenged, it would not fail on appeal. So I would say that, and this is a rhetorical question, I wonder what data came forth to change the recommendation. I mean, if there was data, that would be interesting to know. As all of you on the board know, there's pretty large data package and research given to all the board members, to everybody that was at that meeting. Anybody who has asked me about this has that same package. So I would encourage you to follow through on your original recommendation, to remember that ordinances are live documents, they're living documents, they can be changed, they can be improved. I think Ms. Day and Ms. Albrecht are very, very capable staff members who won't hesitate to point out something that could be deleted, something that could be added, something that could be done differently. So that's what I have to say. I could also discuss some of the, give my view based on some of the things that have been said, but that's what I have to say. I guess I will say one more thing relative to what Mr. Messenger said. I've figured out what some of these make, and on average, it's around $27,000, but some, the big ones you were talking about, it's $150,000 to $200,000 a year. There are many businesses in town that I'm sure would love to make that kind of money.
All right, I'm gonna just have you move
Very
on.
quick, if a dwelling unit is converted to apartments, it's considered a business, and it's regulated by the town. If it's converted to a restaurant, it's considered a business, and it's regulated by the town. If a dwelling unit becomes a home occupation, somebody has a business in their home, it's considered a business, and it's regulated by the town. If a dwelling unit becomes a bed and breakfast, it's considered a business and is regulated by the town. If it becomes an office space or a retail space, it's considered a business and is regulated by the town. And it would say the regulations are either the same as what's in this ordinance or actually much stricter. So
Okay.
I think we should
Thank you.
let folks vote on it.
Okay. Any other questions from the public before I move on?
I have one question. And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get probably booed out of this place when I say this, but I just wanna ask one thing, point of order.
Yep.
I know in the past, when I was on the select board, if there was more than 3 people on the select board in a particular meeting, it was considered a quorum. Does that hold true for the planning board as well?
It does, and the planning board has announced on the website that there'll be a quorum here tonight and no business will be conducted.
But we just did it.
No business is being conducted.
We just did it. We talked about the ordinance.
No, I'm sorry, you're wrong.
We will look into that, Lee. We had actually talked about that earlier. I don't know the answer 100%. I'm not gonna lie to you. We'll have to look at that. I know they did notice that they would be here with the quorum, but I didn't have enough time to research that from when we were notified on that. Okay, so we're gonna move on with this. I'm just gonna make a couple comments about this, very similar to some other comments that were made. I do believe Mr. Rayday said it, whether I'm for it or against it, you don't know. I have some questions in here, just like our other members do, of the cost of what it's gonna cost to run this program. We need to make sure it is a net zero. Are we ever gonna have a true net zero on anything that we say is gonna be net zero? No, it's never gonna happen. We're gonna try and keep it as close to net zero as we can. But that's not really up for us to decide, it's for the voters. I've had, I can tell you, many phone calls, emails, chats with people over the last few weeks about this. Like Kevin said, we are a town, government, and we need to let the people, I think, vote. There's a lot of passion on this, on both sides. I understand both sides. I'm a business owner here in town myself. I pay my property tax on my business, but I also have to pay my personal property tax on my other business that is inside that same business. So when we talk about getting taxed twice and all of that for businesses and the Airbnbs aren't, I'm a big supporter of tourism in this town. My business survives on tourism. 98% of my business is tourism. But at the same time, we need to look at all the different options. I talked with Ashley earlier, because I wasn't sure on certain questions when we put them on the referendum. I don't always agree when we put things on there, the Board of Selectmen recommends a yes or a no vote on these questions. To me, that's swaying the people of the town, which way we think they should vote. No, let the people decide. So I'm gonna end it with that comment. Do we have any other comments from our board that's here right now?
I do. Listening to all of you, I didn't really have any real strong feeling either way, but I really feel that we have to have safety for the people who are coming into this town and are going to be in a short-term rental. So whether it's fire safety, whether it's the water safety, I really think this is going to be a small cost for a great amount of protection for people who are coming to our town. So I continue to support this.
And Dan, I agree with you 100%, and I think that this should go to the people. And the people are the ones that will make the decision. This voting, if we vote this to be on the referendum, it doesn't mean that we're supporting it. It means that we are putting it out to the people. And that I support.
Can I say one more thing? That's not anything controversial. Can you just really carefully explain to the people the difference between C and D so they don't get confused?
I agree with that too.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks. Because if they just go to the polls and read it, no one will know what's happening.
Yep. Okay. So I think I'm at the point now where I will call for a vote. So all those in favor of putting the short-term rental ordinance on the November 3rd, 2026 referendum? All those in favor? All opposed? 3-1. So I'll go back to your point, Judy. And Ashley, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. And we do need to do more, you know, educating, thank you. I was looking for the word and it's been a long night. On what C and D are. My understanding, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, 5C is just making, in the land use ordinance, under each district, short-term rentals are allowable with no restrictions. It just allows, it just basically tells the town, anybody coming in, yes, you can have a short-term rental in these districts. 5D, which is the motion for the short-term rental registration ordinance, that is the one that is putting restrictions on the owners, where they have to register, they have to submit a parking plan, they have to submit, you know, what the septic allows. And Brenda, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that that software works, if a Airbnb has a house on, you know, Jones Lake, I'm not gonna pick on any particular lakes, because I know a lot of people on a lot of different lakes. But, you know, let's say they're on Jones Lake, and their house is built as a 5-bedroom house, and their septic is approved for whatever, say 12 and a half people. Does the software know that? So if they then turn around and put out on Airbnb, you know, we have a house that can accommodate 28 people, does it know the difference?
The software does not know that. So what happens is we get everybody that's registered with Airbnb or Vrbo, and it brings up the information, what they're advertising for, number of people that can stay there. And then it's going to be my responsibility to make sure that the septic design supports that. But they're supposed to submit that with their application, and that's why we're asking for those details, is so that I have a copy of the septic report, the install saying, okay, this is made for a 3-bedroom. So then 3-bedroom, it's recognized as 2 people per bedroom plus 2.
Okay, so.
Does that make sense?
Like in the beginning, let's say, and again, we may have to learn more on this software. And again, a lot's gonna depend on what the town people vote in. But are you able to, when somebody submits that information, are we able to, in the software, put in there that, okay, this will only allow X amount of people?
So that's why the
But then
checklist
like a month
would.
from now, they changed their Airbnb rental from 12 people to 28 people. Is the software gonna pick that up?
No, but they are going to have to renew their license every year. So as the renewal process, they're supposed to submit the required materials with it. The reason why I put in there And I'm not saying I'm for or against here either, just so everybody knows. But the reason why I put in there, asking for a septic design is because I'm going to be able to see, okay, you're advertising for 28, you only have 2 bedrooms, it's not going to work. And that's when the license doesn't get issued. And then we work with the person to try to either get them, I'm not saying, it's echoing, I'm not saying that somebody's not going to go on and change their advertisement to say that they only have 2 bedrooms and they allow 12 people in there, but, that's what we're going to have is what they advertise versus what we have on record.
Okay, can I be the negative person here?
You sure can.
Well, I am regularly, I guess. What happens when you, and we have talked about this.
Yes.
You approach them and, they say, we're gonna do what we're gonna do. I know you're gonna talk about violations and fines, but we're just gonna do what we can do. We know this, we think it's fine. But you won't go alone because I won't let you do it.
I go anyways.
Well, yeah, I know.
So what happens is we don't issue the license.
No,
So
but what?
then
if
they're
you
in
don't-
violation.
Well, I know that, but you can't be everywhere.
I cannot be everywhere. But we do have violation letters that we
No,
can
I know
send
that.
out.
Okay. Okay.
So it is a process, just like any other violation. It would just be that. I also want to talk on your education. And talking to the town attorney, it was highly recommended to keep the violations down to a minimum, and you've seen this in other towns, is if this does pass, even before it passes, we really need to educate the public, because that helps with the violations, and he's noticed that the ones that really do a good education with the public, the violations are way less than they are not having that education. So, we've talked about that. If this passes, that, we're immediately sending out letters, but we're going to do some education prior to the vote too, just to educate people what this means.
Thank you.
Can I ask you one question, Brenda?
Yeah.
So if somebody's in violation, do we notify VRBO or Airbnb, or are those two things separate?
So my understanding, we don't have the software yet, so we don't have it in play. We've just kind of
Right.
done demos on different ones that we
Okay.
had to pick from. I currently already work with this software, so I'm very familiar with it, with my code enforcement piece and permitting and violations. I don't think it notifies them, but I know they have, somebody else brought it up here. If you don't have a good review, they do get noticed, and you're not, it really puts a bad thing, and sometimes they remove them off the listing, from what I understand.
Okay.
I've never done, I rent Airbnbs, but I've never had one myself, but that's why I understand it. If, they do get notified if, somebody comes in and they trash the place,
Okay.
or the people are not good that are renting it, out, it gets acknowledged.
Okay.
But that's just my understanding. Like I said, until I really get into the program, I'm really not fully going to know that, but I could ask too, if we needed to.
And Brenda, it's only the first year that they have to submit all the plans,
Unless it changes.
unless there's a change.
Unless it
Or it
changes,
changes
yeah.
hands or whatever.
So in that case, to answer your question again, so if somebody all of a sudden has an increase in the amount of people in a rental, if they didn't submit me a new septic design supporting that, it's not going to go. It's going to be denied. Something else that got brought up, trying to answer some questions that I kind of heard in the audience here, not to drag this meeting on all night, but when Ashley gets those licenses or the registrations, the permits, it's going to be just like we do with the vicular's license and the marijuana. The department heads are going to review the application, so it'll still be that same process of myself, fire, police. That's it, right?
Sometimes Public Works and Rec if required,
Yeah.
depending on an event.
Yeah, so those things are sent to us prior to you getting the application, well, Ashley getting the application, approve it. She'll get acknowledgement from us that we all say, yeah, this is okay.
And will it need to come to the select board for approval, or
I'm
needs
trying to
to
remember. I don't think we-
I know, that's what I'm thinking.
I think if it's denied, then it comes.
If it's appealed,
Appealed,
if it's
yeah.
appealed, because it's Ashley's department, it comes to you guys for the appeal.
Okay.
We did talk about that, I had to think which way it went, but yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. We don't want to approve them all. We trust you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Anything else?
thanks.
You good?
Thank you. I mean, I have a million more questions I could ask you, but we don't have all night here. All right, item 6, committee liaison reports.
Did we take this? Yeah, we did.
We took a vote.
We did a vote,
Yeah,
3
I
to
got
1.
it, I got it.
Yep. Okay, hearing none. Public comments on town business. Anyone online? None. All right, select board comments. I'll start down there with you, Amy.
I don't really have any comments.
Okay.
I think I'm commented out as well.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's right.
Carmen?
I wish Batman was here.
Batman.
What?
Why do we want Batman?
I don't have any issues.
What did she say?
You want the Batcave or what?
I'll keep it brief. I don't have any comments myself. I will turn it over to the town manager's report.
Good evening. Thank you all for hanging in there this evening. I recently took a tour of the new Bridgton Montessori School with quite a few people, and some of them are in the room. And I appreciated the time that the department heads and the CDAC members actually took to be there. Brenda and I took a site visit to the 12.9 acres we own near the laundromat.
That many acres.
That was interesting, in case we ever want to consider, which that was one of the sites for moderate housing, income-based housing. I don't like the word affordable housing, but we took a tour. It was the first time that I walked that trail, so. Chris McGuire and Bruce Kimball and I took a trip down to Fosterville Road because we will be paving that. That's going to be starting in September. I looked at the ditching work that they did, which is outstanding. They really did a good job prepping for that. Bruce and I walked the Pondicherry Trail with the Loon Echo folks. It was an excellent, well, I was going to say over an hour. It was more than that. We discussed their future plans on the trail, and we do maintenance on the trail, so that's why we wanted to see what they expected from us, and it's going to be just fine. The board held a mooring ordinance workshop, which was probably longer than this one, I think. I was really impressed with the audience, their passion and respectful comments. It was really a good public meeting. Carmen, I had a very interesting and wonderful meeting with our Cumberland County Commissioner, Jean Marie Caterina.
Yes, she left us information.
Yes, she did. I wanted to let you all have that. We shared the information, some information about Bridgton and obviously the county. I did give that handout to the department heads as well. We finally put the last pay requisition, some of you will be proud of this, on the wastewater expansion project. Project began in December 21st in 2018. And the final project cost was $27,909. Think about that, and you know, we're going to work on that in the future to have more people hooking up. The last thing was a request by Carmen about a ham complex project update. I think a little while ago we brought you information on the playground piece, which will be, well, it's pending county approval, but we all supported that here. And we are now going to look at, and Ashley knows this, we've submitted to Courtney all the required documentation for the next phase or phases, and that will be done by this fall, I believe, or early winter, and it will be that will move with hopefully support from everybody, and begin the last, or the second phase actually, in the spring. So pickleball courts are part of your,
So you're working with, county is administering this? Because it went through a federal agency,
it's a federal,
right?
we have a federal contact, Matt Henyon, but Courtney's directly involved too, helping us not only with the,
There is a
Bob McCann.
CDBG funding.
That's why
portion.
she's part of that.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry, this is Bob McCann. You can go back to sleep, we did all the work here. Okay, it's, we miss you here, but it's, you should still be here, but thank you for calling, and I'll check on you after. Yes, we're still at the meeting. Goodbye, don't even comment. Go ahead. Well, you know, that's one of my bosses. So I think the awards for the, you know, the construction will be in the spring, and we'll move forward.
So we're really sure that we're not going to go over budget on this, right?
That's what you told me.
Okay, yeah.
That's what you've shared with me since I've known you.
I'm just asking.
You got it on the record. We're hopefully going to not be over budget, and if we are, I'm blaming Ashley. I would never do that to you.
Or reduce the project.
We're gonna do the best we can, yes, we are. Other than that, that's enough. We've had a long evening, so I'm not gonna say anything else. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, item 10, treasurer's warrants.
I move to approve treasurer warrants 9 through 15.
I second.
All in favor?
Ned Carmen, your favorite's coming up.
It's coming up. Date for the next meeting, September 8th, 2026 at 5 PM. Regular meeting, September 22nd, 2026 at 5 PM will be a regular meeting. And now I will take item 12.
I move to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor? Thank you.